Good afternoon, everybody. It's Terri Joosten at HR Strategies speaking. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy days to join us for our 2018 Learning and Development Trends, Rising Stars, Technologies Past Their Prime presentation today. We're hoping that you will find the data and information collected in the survey we're covering of interest to you and provide value in helping you with what you're trying to accomplish today or planning to do in your learning and development and training department. Let's get started right away. We've got lots of content to cover. We're going to introduce you to the rest of the speakers. We're going to be able to share with you some great survey data and information around the results of this global study from 2018. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on micro-learning, finding out whether that's really hype or not, going back and forth over the survey results, pinpointing where the losers and winners are and why that is the case. And then we're going to spend some time just reviewing with you a case example of a learning solution and how it enables you to pull all of these trends together in one consolidated environment for you to be able to deliver these types of results in your organization. We have together with me Terri Joosten. I am, as I mentioned, Global Vice President of HR Strategies. I do have an over 23-year background in the human capital management space. Did a lot of work in and around the technology, have been following all of the trends and mergers and acquisitions in learning and development, and attended hundreds of conferences in my day. So look forward to sharing some insight with you. We also have on the line today with us who's going to be reviewing the survey results, Samantha Marsden. She's a Senior Manager of Marketing at OpenSesame. Her experience takes her from developing e-learning courses with an emphasis on the veterinary health field to working with global organizations developing internal communication strategies around their training programs. So we'd like to welcome her and thank her for taking her time today. The session today would not be possible if it were not for OpenSesame, HR Strategies, and of course our sponsor, SAP SuccessFactors. SAP SuccessFactors is the leader in human capital management technology. They do have a standalone learning management solution being used by over 35 million users on an annual basis. It's one of the many suites or modules that are available through their human capital management solution, which is a full life cycle management solution starting right from HRIS, payroll, benefits, time and attendance through onboarding, recruiting, performance goals, learning, compensation, succession, career development, all wrapped in deep analytics, social, mobile capabilities, and it's noted for being the largest because it has over 6,500 customers and over 110 million users, making it the largest platform on the market. So thank you for their sponsorship. OpenSesame is one of the leading content management solution providers. They're an aggregator of all the content, ensuring that they can meet the needs of almost any client in industry by providing one-stop shop for all of your online learning content. And we welcome them here as well. And of course, HR Strategies, who is a human consultant management consulting firm for over 20 years, who over the last 5 years has been doing implementations and helping people prepare and deliver technology solutions in the HR realm, including the SAP SuccessFactors Solutions Suite. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the session over right now to Samantha to go through the Global Sentiment Survey and share those findings with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talk about the results and insights from the Global Sentiment Survey, and a big thanks to Terri for that introduction. So OpenSesame helps companies like yours. We offer the most comprehensive catalog of e-learning courses from the world's top publishers. But we really do more than just offer a large course catalog, though. We actually go in with you, find courses you need, map them to your core competencies. As Terri mentioned, sync them over with your learning management system and really support you in every way possible. And we're really excited to be working with HR Strategies and doing this presentation together. So now on to the survey and presentation. So this is the Global Sentiment Survey that we're going to be talking about. This is something that's conducted by Donald Talor. He is the chairperson of the Learning and Performance Institute and a real valued partner of OpenSesame. Okay, yeah, let's get started here. Continue on again. So, okay, so let's get back here to talk about a little bit about what the survey is and look at the results. So this survey has been conducted for 5 years now, and how it works is really simple. People are asked one question, and that is, what will be hot in L&D next year? So they're just asked that one question, and this may seem like a peculiar choice of words. Would it not be better to ask people detailed questions about their intentions for the new year? What initiatives do they have? What systems do they plan to invest in 2018? How is their approach to delivery or implementation going to change next year? And we found that when we ask L&D professionals these questions on what they plan to do in the next year, the answer almost always was more of everything, and I'm sure you all can relate to that. And then when we checked in at the end of the year, what actually changed and had a measurable result, unsurprisingly, was very little. Very small changes were made in a limited number of areas. So although well-intended, intent is not always an accurate guide to the future. The question, what do you think will be hot in L&D in 2018, specifically assesses the sentiment rather than the intent. And that's hence the title of the Global Sentiment Survey. So while this seems like a superficial question and what seems to be a superficial question does not attempt to gauge what will actually happen in the next 12 months, but it's proved to be a remarkably accurate guide into what's going to happen in the longer term. And the reason for that is that respondents who participate in this poll tend to be a self-selecting group of people that have a strong interest in change in this industry. And so the result is what they find hot 1 year later has actually been more widely discussed, if not already acted upon, as we'll talk about. So going again into the survey, respondents choose up to 3 answers from a list of 15 options that we'll show you here. It's important to know, they were not given a definition of any of the options that they had to choose from, and they were not given a definition on what being hot meant. Respondents generally finished this survey in under 60 seconds. And you can see here what the breakdown was of people who participated. So remember the question, what do you think will be hot in L&D? So these are the 15 options that people had to choose from, and here we go with the results. The numbers on the left indicate the position that they took this year, and the number on the right here indicates the position that they were in last year. So interestingly enough, as you see right off the bat, the top 2 stayed the same. So I'm going to let you guys kind of just look at this for a second to see exactly where everything is positioned this year versus where it was last year. Some of them jumped, some of them dropped, some stayed the same. And then we'll go in and we'll kind of talk about a couple of key takeaways from these initial results. So the first, as I mentioned, is personalization and adapted delivery stayed at number 1. It was new to number 1 last year for 2017, and it stayed. It is not strongly nailed to that position overall. It was down in the terms of the number of votes casted, and it actually, across all geographies, it fell. So how long will this stay at the top? It's kind of something to think about and see what future surveys tell us. The second really key takeaway, just looking at the results initially, is that technology is not as hot as it once was. In previous surveys, technology has dominated the top half of the table. This year, microlearning, VR, AR, mobile delivery, it all fell in the number of votes. And we tend to see, for the most part, that once a result drops, it likely does not recover. However, AI jumped up to number 3. Last year, it was at number 8. It was new to the survey last year, came in as number 8. This year, it jumped to number 3. I think that AI will continue to be a really hot topic, and wouldn't be surprised if next year, if it jumps to 1 or 2, but we'll see how that goes, and we'll talk a little bit about AI in just a little bit and what this jump potentially means. And the last really key takeaway from the initial survey results is that L&D seems to be getting its business more head-on. Consulting more deep in the business has gone up from 5 to 4. So really developing ourselves to do a better job has raised itself from prior surveys. L&D seems to be focusing more on the business, which is a really positive statement for our industry. Consulting more deeply in the business is a key winner in our mind in terms of the placement of the survey. Especially, you can see that it dropped last year, so it actually went up this year, which you don't tend to see that too often when something drops and then it comes back up. It really shows the value and importance that it has, and then we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So to kind of recap, the 3 takeaways here are personalization remains important, but not as important. Same on collaboration. People this year, more than past years, are interested in other topics, which isn't a bad thing. Technology, not quite as strong as it was, except the rising interest of AI. And then L&D appears to be getting more deeply involved in the business. So I want to take a little bit, now that you've seen the survey results and kind of talked about some initial key takeaways, I want to take a sidestep here and talk about survey results and how much is hype. And we'll take a look at a couple key topics from the survey that I told you we'd be talking about a little bit more, which is artificial intelligence and microlearning. And we're going to kind of walk through these topics as examples to discuss how much of this stuff is a result of hype and excitement that doesn't actually go on to have a lasting long-term effect on our industry. Some things that are very popular and have enormous hype tend to sometimes go on and do nothing, or doesn't manifest into anything significant. And I'm curious if we'll see these in the 2 topics of microlearning and AI. So this is, if you haven't seen this before, this is called the Gartner hype curve. It really provides a graphic representation of the maturity and adoption of technologies and applications and how they are potentially relevant to solving real business problems and exploiting new opportunities. So here we have something called the peak of inflated expectations. And I'm going to walk through this Gartner hype curve, and I'm going to use the example of mobile phones to explain how this graph works. So peak of inflated expectations. We thought that mobile phones will be the way we communicate and solve all of our problems. That was our inflated expectations. But in 2007, we saw that people were trying to put PowerPoint slides onto a mobile screen, and turns out that was not a great way to learn or not a great way to be delivered content. And so it kind of went through this trough of disillusionment and was a real disappointment. But then time goes on and technology develops and our expectations kind of adjust. And then we end up kind of having a good compromise and have something that is being used fairly well. So it's not at the peak as we thought it would be, but it ended up being something fairly useful. So let's kind of walk through this Gartner hype curve when we talk about microlearning. So, and I don't want to suggest that microlearning is not useful or valuable, because it very much is. It is a recommended and useful type of learning for many organizations and individuals when done correctly. But I do think that it was overhyped in 2016, and I'm going to say why and how we can use that to look at other technologies. So in 2016, microlearning was a new topic to the survey, and it was very popular, as we see here in North America. And it was way ahead of everyone else's responses that were a little bit down. So the next year, in 2017, North America went down. North America went down, but it shot up everywhere else. Everyone followed North America's trend. This year, you'll notice it dropped everywhere. The pattern is the same in every region. So in other words, the popularity surged. Participants are still interested, but less interested overall. And to me, this pattern combined with this downward line for North America tells us what really happened. And in early 2015, Google Trends showed an increase in the usage of the term microlearning, which really accelerated into 2016 and continued to grow. So what changed in 2015? The most likely explanation is that a number of North American vendors that have been successfully creating and distributing microlearning content, these are really great companies doing their job very well. They began really ramping up their PR efforts, and we had some good companies who received large amounts of funding. And as a result of that came marketing and PR efforts for their products. And all of a sudden, microlearning was a key topic of conversation in L&D. With that result, as we see in 2016, microlearning topped the poll in North America. And the chart shows what happened next. 2017, microlearning leapt in popularity outside of North America, only to die away for everyone the following year. So all of the major regions show this same pattern of a surge arc. And I think in the end, we'll end up with a great acceptance of the microlearning trend. But we can see, similar to mobile phones, how popularity surged up based on a hype around it. And then in the end, we may end up compromising a little bit. So the question is, will this pattern continue where when we go up in North America and we get excited about something, everyone else will, for us to all die off together? And the one that we are most worried about and excited about is AI. If we go back to the list of results here, we'll see that AI was new on the list at number 8. I have it listed, there we are, new at the list at number 8. We thought it would be higher, but it wasn't. And this year went from 8 to number 3, and it was actually very close to being listed as number 2. I think there is a very strong interest across the board regionally in AI in this field. Our prediction is that it will not die away in terms of interest next year the way that it has with microlearning, but really time will only tell, and the next couple surveys will indicate that. So back on to past microlearning, let's talk a little bit about, who are the winners of the surveys and who are the losers, and what's exactly happening here. So as we talked about a little bit at the start, we have these two topics, personalization, adaptive delivery, and collaborative and social learning. And what you'll see here is that collaboration and social learning is declining, and personalization is picked up year after year. Now, it's not exactly what you expect when you get to 2018. The collaboration vote really falls off a cliff a little bit, and it's going down. And what does that tell us? It really tells us two things. The business about collaborative and social learning is a really good story. And what I mean is, if something declines on the table, it is not necessarily a bad thing. Remember the question of the survey: what will be hot? To most people, that says something that is new and shiny and exciting and also scary, and you want to get to know it and wrap your arms around it. And I don't think that people feel that way about collaborative learning right now. I do think that people feel largely that it is a key part to how we learn and something that we should be doing. So in other words, I think that collaboration and social learning was this novelty in 2015, and now is accepted as what we should be doing. It's considered the norm. That's a really great step for our industry right now. It usually takes about a decade for something like this to normalize it, and here we've done it in a much shorter period of time. And the drop in personalization, I think, is likely due to the availability of AI options. Personalization is the side effect, where AI is really how we get there. Again, we'll have to see what happens with AI in future surveys. Maybe it will jump to number 2 and personalization will come down. We'll be doing the survey again next year, so you have to check back then. The progressive descent of some options over time is a sign that they become more business as usual, as I've talked about, as opposed to hot and exciting. And L&D departments accept that these are the things they should be engaged with. And mobile delivery, again, is a classic example of this. This first in 2014 and 2015, it topped the survey. The idea of delivering quality content over smart devices, it had just become this fantastic reality. And now it's more part of our daily lives as consumers. So this fall here is not a bad thing. Video's also taken a fall. It's not as dramatic. It dropped dramatically between the 2015 and 2016 survey, and then it's kind of stabilized since then, largely because the complexity of in-house video production really continues to grow. People have interested in branching scenarios and using hotspots and different images. I think all of this has kept video from a more rapid response down the table, and just kept it in the middle as things that people are interested in, but maybe too complex to do themselves, which is really a major theme of the survey altogether. And then we have a few perennial issues. So these 3 options we have highlighted here, narrow, showing value, and curation, have really stuck in the table every year. People know they are important and want to do something with them and really aren't willing to let them go. The showing value in particular really indicates that it's moving from a fulfillment piece to a consultant piece, and show that we have indeed already added value. And the curation, which is the business of understanding the value of curation, and it's really something that's increased over time and is important. The fact that it stayed on the same line exactly here the last 3 years, again, shows that people know that this is something that's important, but they don't necessarily know how to do it. Again, it's something that they're excited about, but the issue as a whole is too complex. So for them to be able to achieve it within the next year is a little bit unrealistic without some sort of help or some sort of technology assisting them. So again, just different ways you can look at it, and kind of some topics that have stayed in the same place over the last couple of years, and we'll see if they stay in the same place again for the upcoming survey. So there's really two kind of losers in our mind for this survey. The first is gamification. It's taken a fairly dramatic drop. And we find that when something comes down, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or not being used, as we've discussed. But gamification is something that can be fairly complicated. It's just too complex. Same with MOOC, which is massive organized online courses. Really look how they've come down. People simply have found it too difficult for them to navigate on their own internally. Most people, as you know, in L&D are totally maxed out. So people don't always have time to go in and do things themselves. They need some additional help for resources and technology to help them figure out gamification, figure out online courses. And there's, of course, plenty of organizations and technologies that can help you with that, but people doing it on their own has just become too overwhelming. The last thing I wanted to note here, it's not highlighted, and it's number here, it's number 7 in 2018, and it's number 4 in 2017, and that is VAAR, virtual reality, augmented reality. That's when someone puts a headset on and they're able to kind of see a different world and navigate through a different world for learning purposes. And that has continued to drop to our surprise. That was very surprising that it's dropped as much as it has. I think it's too soon to see what's actually going on with VAAR. I think that there's expected to be a lot of good use cases within the next 12 months of people utilizing this. So we'll just kind of see what happens, but that is a surprise and not totally sure where that's coming from. And microlearning, again, as we've discussed, we'll continue to see if that drops or if that is kind of maintains its location for a couple of years. So the two winners this year, there's two winners that stand out that we've talked about a little bit already. One is artificial intelligence. As we talked about regarding the hype in reality, I think it is unlikely that the rise of AI from number 8 last year to number 3 this year is a matter of hype and PR efforts from North America. I think that there's a lot of really exciting things happening in our industry around AI, and it's likely that AI will dominate the conversation in L&D this year and next year, and will really begin to deliver. It's already, we're starting to see it delivering, and we hear about it more and more. Again, would not be surprised if next year's survey, if this was up in the number 1 and 2. The other winner this year is less obvious, and that is consulting more deeply with the business. As I mentioned earlier, on its first appearance in the survey in 2016, that was the first time it was listed as an option for people to choose from. It placed at number 3, and then the following year for 2017, it dropped to number 5. Normally, when an option that is in the upper reaches of the table begins to descend, it does not stop, as I showed you in a couple of examples. But uniquely, this choice came back up again this year. This looks as though it could be a significant change. Moreover, it did this with a broad support from the largest regions, Europe, North America, and UK. It all went up and had a lot of votes to move that position from number 5 back up to number 4. This uptick really suggests that the engagement within the business is likely to be a major theme for L&D this year that we're really excited about, that we really all should be excited about. So really there you have it, everyone. That is the results of the 2018 Learning Technology Trends from the Global Sentiment Survey. As I mentioned, these survey results, they come out every spring by Donald Talor and OpenSesame. So you all can be on the lookout for that, and you can see how the trends for this upcoming year will result in based on what we just presented here. And again, that's with OpenSesame and Donald Talor of the Learning and Performance Institute. And I really appreciate you all taking time to kind of hear about everything today. And I think now I'm going to, Terri, kick it back to you. I know you wanted to walk through a few things.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for all the work that you did and pulling those slides together and sharing with us the great insight to what happened in 2018. And certainly we all look forward to what's happening in 2019. What I wanted to share with you on behalf of one of the sponsors, SAP SuccessFactors, was the importance of being able to deliver everything that was in that survey in one cohesive place. So we want to talk specifically around some of the top trending things around artificial intelligence and adaptability. And we've been seeing that for a long time in the technology world. What we're really finding out on the marketplace is these HR platforms and solutions are really becoming centers of engagement. So it's no longer just what can we do with technology to automate it for HR and learning departments, but it's really how we can enable the solution to have employees drive their own career paths and what they're trying to accomplish inside of the organization. what I wanted to share with you today was some of how systems like SAP SuccessFactors can do that. So when we go in and we look specifically here at my development plans, I'm going to go and view here our career worksheet. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger for everybody's screens here so they can see it better. I'm in as Jeff Hill, and he's a manager. And I can see when I'm in his career worksheet, one of the things we want to be able to do is to be able to quickly and easily go in and view suggested roles that might have the skills and competencies that I have that I can grow into. As Jeff, I've already chosen that I want to be in executive management. And you can see here that I can see how well I'm performing against that in the system. And then I can go in specifically here and add development plans for myself to help me reach my potential in my current role, a future role, or in my general skill set here. So as I go in and I look at those types of development plans that I need to do to meet these expectations, it's really important to be able to assign learning directly to those. So when I go in here and I look for that Thinking Globally plan, I can click here and I can go into a learning management system. And with proper learning management systems, you can obviously open a catalog, but also you could search specifically things tied directly to that skills and competency in the system. So if I were to go in and click on this, and I could view courses that came up, I could view them by the type of course we're offering. And this is also what's important, is we want to be able to take advantage of all those different realms that Sarah went through. So both instructor-led and classroom and curriculum and programs, and be able to house those and make it easy for people to find them right here in the system. And then I can quickly and easily just go through and add those to my learning plan. And you can see here, we bring in content, obviously, from partners and external partners. And HR Strategy is a partner with OpenSesame. And we provide to our customers the ease of integration with their content and ability to access that right here in the solution. So we want our employees to be able to empower themselves to get better in their current roles, or to develop for future or successor roles inside this solution and add learning to them. Let's look at learning in more specific detail. In reality, what we heard today was there's a lot of emphasis on artificial intelligence, and SAP has provided a lot of value around artificial intelligence in all of their solutions, including learning. So we have the capability to be able to suggest courses here based on your job, your role, similar courses that you have taken out there. These recommendations can also be provided to us by our managers, by HR, or by the learning and development teams within inside your organization. What we're trying to showcase here is the fact that we can have a learning portal where we can come to and take advantage of some of the trends that we're seeing on the marketplace by pushing recommendations and artificial intelligence to them, by able to feature courses that we specifically want our employees to be able to take here, by giving them quick and easy access to everything they've taken in the past, and even the ability for them to actually go in and review that content again. So often, if we're not using systems, we're sending people away to training or to take courses that require credits, but once they've achieved that credit, that details and information isn't necessarily made available to here. By using these leading edge learning management solutions, we can allow them to link out and have access to that training and review that training at any time. We're content agnostic at SAP SuccessFactors, which means you can create your own content using any SCORM compliant software like Camtasia or Captiva and bring that into the solution. We also allow you to use those great content providers like OpenSesame and seamlessly bring that content into the solution. We can do all kinds of great things. Here you can see we have requirements to pick from a pool. So if I look in here, I have to actually go in and pick 2 items that are in this pool. So I can view more details, or I can assign those to me to meet that criteria. I can sort this data and information based on the type of assignment it is, whether it's compliance related or just required, or all assignments. I can again look at it based on the type of activity that I'm looking to accomplish here in the system. So we make it really easy for employees to be able to come in and take advantage of learning on their own by assigning their own learning and going into your course catalogs up here, but also having learning pushed to them based on artificial intelligence or based on their role and job and position inside the organization. We also, of course, help you keep very compliant in the system by doing things by wrapping content, which just opened on my other screen here, so we can take any paper or piece of content that you have and put wrappers around that to make sure that people have read our policies and our procedures. We can track if they've scrolled all the way to the bottom or not. We can track how long they've been on these. And more importantly, of course, if I return to this content structure, I can wrap quizzes around anything that I'm doing in the system to make sure that employees are actually digesting the content that we're making them acknowledge reading in the system. So I didn't want to spend a ton of time. We could do a full day's learning demo today in the system, but really I wanted to just focus on the artificial intelligence, about the ability to empower your employees to take responsibility for their own careers and to utilize all that content that you've developed, whether it's developed yourself, it's bought by an organization like OpenSesame, whether you're using MOOCs out there in the system. You know, if you're using gamification, it can be done here in the solution as well. But you need to be able to consolidate and make these learning opportunities available to your employees. Being an HR professional, I know, and I've seen the research that states that employee development is now becoming almost par with salary and overall benefits in an organization. Especially for the millennial generation, they really need to be able to see how they can grow from one role to another role in the organization and be able to achieve that on their own without having to wait for managers to be able to facilitate that. These systems also take that heavy lifting off of us in L&D and in HR, because employees now can do all of their own assignments and choosing of courses and information to improve their skills and competencies. And all that data is stored in host here in your learning summary. Thanks again for joining us today. We appreciate the time you've taken out of your busy schedule to either be with us live today or to watch this in archive. Enjoy your days. Thank you. Bye now.